You know, I'm doing this video mostly for Mel because she really likes this knife, and you know, I don't know if you guys are out there can sympathize, but you know, you want your girlfriend or your wife or your daughter, you know, to carry a knife because you feel it, you know, it's good for their protection, and you like, you know, you like these folding knives better than those dang stupid kitchen knives that are cheap, and yet sometimes it's just hard for them to find that perfect knife. You know, they got different pockets. You know, you know, it's just different for girls, and so either way, so Mel has taken to this knife a lot, and a lot of people also really do like this knife, and I'll admit I really like it too. I like the design, but you know, I listed some flaws, and I want to show you still some update on what's going on, and are those flaws fixed, and that's some things I've tried. Now, I mentioned that the screw quality is not that great, and that still applies, but you know, once you've broken the Loctite, if you choose not to Loctite again, I would say that, you know, so long as you just don't, you know, really like twist down on the screws. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but maybe just leave them a little bit kind of loose. I mean, it's just something you're gonna have to feel on your own. Then, you know, it should be okay. I mean, it's okay. They're definitely small millimeter screws. We're talking the size of almost just a little bit bigger than a Boker Nepal or Boker Subcom, which are two knives that I thought maybe I could take the screws off of and use them on this one. But these Spyderco screws are still better than those. These are a little bit more harder. But there is something I have centered it again finally. And what that is I was telling you how since all these pins, they're not nestled. So, you know, like on perhaps on a Christian knife, or even just on the Sage, how all three are nestled, so that they hold sort of like a position of the handle like this, you know, from moving this way or that way. The two plates. This one they do not do that. Spyderco only puts that spacer for the lanyard that goes pretty high into, you know, you see how thick the titanium is, it sticks out, but that kind of holds it back here, and then just this, and in many ways, and then this stop pin. So in many ways it looks kind of like a Umnumzan, you know, one in the front, one in the back. You know, there's differences in that machining, the perfection, because the tolerances, because first, you see how the blade is centered. Now I'm going to show you, like, I don't know if you guys can see this, but you know, if I, let's see, you know, if I, you know, these are all tight to a point. Okay, I mean, I don't want to like actually mess them up even more. Okay, right now, still centered, right? Okay, this one right here is loose. Tighten it just a little bit. Right, this one. This one here. Okay. Look. Just watch this. Can you see this in camera? Look. Loose. Tighten. Look at it, it's so silly. I tried messing with the pivot, and that pivot, you know, if you loosen it just a little bit, the actual pivot can move from side to side, and it wouldn't help this open smoother. So, you know, I just went ahead and tightened that to where it's good enough to where the blade isn't stuck, you know, held down, but at the same time still can move. It doesn't move from side to side, the actual pivot sliding around. But you can see that one little screw right there, how odd that is, and that's because I told you the tolerances on this pin area just not that great, and that's kind of an example of why, you know, why does that even affect this? You know, it shouldn't. You know, most of the time you twist down on the pivots, and it moves the thing around, moves the blade from side to side. Or, you know, they have all these different ways of. At first, I thought perhaps maybe because the tension of these titanium sides, that perhaps they weren't perfectly flat to begin with, because I kind of noticed that you had to hold them down to screw it down. And perhaps on the G10 version with the M4 steel, it's better because one side doesn't, the G10 side doesn't have much pressure, and the titanium's the solid side. So when you screw it, you know, it's not really like trying to push or pull anything this way. And I thought perhaps if I push this plate forward and the other plate backward, or vice versa, you know, that would kind of move everything around. To some degree, yeah, a little bit. But mostly it's just that. And like I said, when I first got it, that's what made me strip that screw, and we took one of the pocket clip screws and switched it over there to that and put that stripped one onto the pocket clip, because they had Loctite this whole thing down so much. And if you look, okay, see, but it's still different. Okay, wait, hold on, let's see. See, so kind of odd, like see, I don't know right. And yet, see, it's just those tolerances that stop in, meaning there's slight movement here. This thing can move slightly, that when it opens up, that if you just push it a little bit further, then this thing would have, you know, moved over from that impact. So if you hit it hard, flick it open harder, there it locks up. Compared to now, for example, Sage, my Sage 2, right? Really good tolerances, I'd said, on this, really good manufacturing quality. If I flick it open hard, see how far it goes, right? Open it as soft as I can. See? So, I don't know, bear in mind that, you know, I guess if you do own this knife, or like the military and own the military, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, I understand what's like a knife. You know, I collect knives too, and you know, I understand when you like one, it's sometimes, you know, there's lots of pros and cons. It's just things you have to learn to accept. It's just understand that, you know, some knives, like more on the Sage, and especially on Striders, you know, it kind of like they should be, considering that they're made of metal, and these screws, and the knife is a tool that almost any plain Joe can go in there and screw them, unscrew them, and you know, make their little mistakes, and the knives hold up like on a Chris Reeve knife. And then on Spyderco, you know, for that to be a little bit more, like, you have to be delicate with these things. It's just it's a little, you know, I don't know, disappointing. But like I said, now that there's no Loctite on any of them, none of these are particularly tightened down, which, you know, definitely doesn't help the knife and its, you know, horizontal stability. I made a comment about the M4 version of this, you know, not making sense. And yeah, you know, M4 steel blade though, of course, you know, with the thin blade of this and the M4 having more toughness, then yeah, this is not gonna, there's less chance of this breaking or something. But it's still the point of, like, you know, if it's not built for any kind of impacts, you know, with the lockup this way, being kind of not high tolerances and precision manufacturing. Just remember that because of that, this is kind of a lighter use, definitely a lighter use folder. And I understand that they probably did that for presentation. You know, they didn't want to have the screws of a Sage, which are much bigger, you know, on there. But the plain fact is, for me, is that, you know, the Sage is modeled after a Sebenza, so it's got that heavy-duty construction, because that's what they were trying to copy. You know, and I showed you in my video, they're the same sizes as the Sebenzas. But these little screws, they're just very, very small. And honestly, I think the reason why these spacers aren't nestled is because at first this used to be a G10 spacer, back spacer. Now they add these two little, I think, again, for the presentation. But I think, you know, perhaps it would have been more expensive had they machined little inlets on both sides of the titanium, so that these stop pins would also be nestled, and then there'd be more structural stability. I mean, you could put those pins on, put the two plates on, have all three pins stuck in between the two plates, and then just screw them down, like you say, you know, no skill required, like on a Sebenza. You just screw them all down, and everything will always be lined up. But because of the way it is built right now, this is something to note. You know, what I just showed you earlier. The design is not perfect. I'm hoping. Maybe, hey, if everyone tells Sal, you know, please, you know, spend the extra, we'll pay the extra 20, 30, whatever it is, I would, to have these be nestled, you know, maybe a little bit bigger diameter, just a little bit, I mean, just something, so that these screw heads are stronger. You know, they're definitely stronger than the flathead versions of the flat top screws. And these are still, at least, thank God they put the domed ones, you know, which are a little bit more durable against stripping. You know, if you could just do that, that would make this knife much more awesome. And especially just get that stop pin. Make the stop pin bigger, you know? So this way there's less chance for error. I mean, the smaller it gets, the more precise it has to be. Just make it, you know, solid, like on a Sage, you know? And this is made in Taiwan, this is made in the US, this is going to Colorado. I think he's got to do a better job on this one. And it may be important to note that because now this screw is not screwed on tight, there's going to of course be more movement of this stop pin. If you don't have Loctite on these screws, you know, then that problem's kind of gone now, the whole how durable the screws are. I mean, you know, like I said, so long as you're just careful when maintaining the knife, you know, then these screws should be fine. So that's good. But in terms of that, what I showed you earlier, this stop pin, I would say, you know, if you put Loctite like they did, and you need to take it apart, you know, it's going to be hard and you might strip your screw. So this is a knife then where my favorite option instead of Teflon tape is the way to go. Put a little Teflon tape over the screw head, screw threading, push the screw down in there, screw it down, and keep it in position, and kind of help, you know, maybe even, like I said, get some Teflon tape going around the where the stop pin goes into the titanium liners, the little grooves that they've machined out for the stop pin to fit inside, and that'll kind of help everything stay in place and pad everything, and then that's definitely the better way to go. So that's, you know, this is what that would fix that. Now just keep in mind, like I said though, because of that imperfection of you know, that machining, you know, you don't want to use a knife for anything heavy, or you're going to eventually cause uneven wearing. But if for anything light, you know, it's going to take a long time to cause you know, some movement to start happening there. So, or more than what it is, and hopefully that Teflon tape will stop that movement anyway, or at least cushion it. So those are some tips I have, at least on this version, and perhaps even the other titanium model. I'm not sure. I don't own that one, but just something to consider if you're interested in this knife. And one last option to help fix this knife to make it a little bit less problems is, you know, go in there, you know, take the knife apart. You can always just, you know, unscrew the side, slide it over, and then take that stainless steel the lock bar protector off, and paint the in between the side that's in between the titanium and that little plate, that steel plate. I mean, no one's ever going to see that's painted anyway. Just paint it so this way you never have to worry about rust forming. I mean, nothing's ever going to scratch that area. I mean, that paint will stay on there forever, and you never have to deal with that. You can even apply some more wax in there, and you know, and then that's done. You know, then you never have to worry about maintaining this area. And just make sure that you know also that it's a combination of the stop pin being tight and this screw. So if you do start to tighten, they're not centered, right? And you do start to tighten this one, this stop pin. Let's see, and watch, and it moves off center again. You see? So let me show you. So just try to, but remember, you can't have the stop pin too loose, because then you can't have the pivot too loose, or you know, it'll move around, which is bad, and there'll be side play and stuff. There, you see. But you can't have this thing too loose either. I mean, or not much of the screws into the bushing, the spacer, and you know, and you have risk of that screw breaking. But I hope this is informative. This is just, you know, perhaps this is just mine. Perhaps I just got one that's really messed up. But anyway, Spyderco has, you know, videos. There's videos on YouTube of Enduras and Delicas failing, and I mean, Spydercos are not always perfect. But generally speaking, they are focused. They do have a goal of making quality products. So if this is just mine, perhaps just mine. But I don't think so. I think this is a design. It's the design of this knife, the way they made it. It just needs some more refinement. Then the knife's good. For what it is, it's decent. It's decent. You know, it's got its little quirks, but I think this video covered most of them and solved some of these problems. So, good news for Mel. Yeah.